Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being truly well-informed. For your deep dive today, we're taking a stack of sources and plunging headfirst into one of history's most baffling cold cases, a mystery that has captivated generations of true crime aficionados and curious minds across the globe.
It really has.
Yeah.
It's incredibly rare for a criminal to simply vanish, especially after pulling off something as brazen as an act of air piracy.
But that's exactly what happened here.
Indeed. We're talking about the infamous case of D.B. Cooper. To this day, it remains the only unsolved act of air piracy in the entire history of commercial aviation.
Just think about that. The only one.
Exactly. Imagine the scene. Thanksgiving Eve, November 24th, 1971. A seemingly ordinary flight becomes the stage for an extraordinary disappearance, one that would really redefine air travel security forever.
Our mission today is to unpack over 5 decades of relentless investigation into this case. We'll scrutinize the perplexing, often contradictory evidence, profile the most compelling suspects that have emerged over the years, and truly explore why this particular vanishing act continues to hold such a powerful grip on the world's imagination, drawing directly from the sources you've provided.
It's a story with so many layers.
So, get ready to put on your detective hats, because we're about to delve into the mind of a ghost who literally flew into legend.
The 5-hour enigma anatomy of a skyjacking.
Let's set the stage for this truly incredible story. It all began on what was supposed to be a completely unremarkable journey. Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305.
Right. This was a milk run, as airline crews used to call them, a short, routine 30-minute hop from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington.
Just another flight.
Exactly. Just another Tuesday afternoon flight. No fanfare, nothing to suggest it would become etched into history.
And among the 36 passengers who boarded that afternoon was a quiet, nondescript man.
He appeared to be in his mid-40s, dressed in a standard business suit, a crisp white-collared shirt, and a distinctive narrow black clip-on tie, a truly unremarkable uniform that, in hindsight, was the perfect camouflage.
Perfect camouflage for what he was about to do.
Precisely. He carried a black attaché case, which would soon reveal his chilling secret, and a brown paper bag, the contents of which, well, they remain a mystery.
He paid for his one-way ticket, just $20 in cash at the airline counter, deliberately avoiding any digital footprint, right?
Right, cash only, and gave the name Dan Cooper. He settled into seat 18E, ordered a bourbon and soda, and in a remarkably unhurried gesture lit a cigarette, seemingly blending in seamlessly with the weary business travelers and holiday-bound families. Just another guy on a plane.
Until he wasn't. The moment of truth, however, came shortly after takeoff. That veneer of normalcy was shattered with a subtle yet menacing gesture.
Yeah, Cooper beckoned a 23-year-old flight attendant named Florence Schaffner and handed her a folded note.
She initially just assumed it was, a flirtatious pass, maybe a phone number or something.
That's what she thought. So she casually slipped it into her purse unopened. But Cooper, maintaining this incredibly placid demeanor, leaned toward her, his voice a calm, chilling whisper that cut through the engine noise. "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb."
Wow. Just like that?
Calm. That simple, chilling whisper was enough to instantly change the atmosphere on the plane, though, amazingly, most passengers remained unaware.
And did she see the bomb?
Well, when Schaffner asked to see the device, Cooper calmly opened his attaché case just enough for her to glimpse what she later described as a terrifying mass of wires, a large battery, and 8 red cylinders, strongly resembling sticks of dynamite.
But we don't know if it was real.
Never officially confirmed to be functional, but its appearance was meticulously crafted, convincing enough to ensure total, unquestioning compliance from the crew. The psychological power of that unconfirmed device was immense. It was a prop designed for maximum effect.
Turning an ordinary flight into a high-stakes hostage negotiation without a single word of panic.
Exactly.
So with the threat firmly established, Cooper wasted no time relaying his precise demands. He instructed Schaffner to take a new note to the cockpit.
And his requirements were incredibly specific. $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills.
Unmarked 20s specifically.
Yes. To be delivered in a knapsack, 4 parachutes, 2 primary backpack rigs, and 2 reserve front packs, and a fuel truck to be on standby at the Seattle airport, ready to top off the tanks upon their arrival. Very precise.
Captain William Scott immediately relayed these demands to air traffic control, who then contacted Seattle police and the FBI.
Right. And on the ground, Northwest Orient's president, Donald Nyrop, made the swift decision to authorize full cooperation with the hijacker. lives first.
Absolutely. Prioritizing the lives of the passengers and crew over the ransom money.
And to buy time for authorities to gather the cash and the parachutes, the pilots informed the unsuspecting passengers that their arrival would be delayed due to minor mechanical difficulty.
You can just imagine the tension in that cockpit.
Oh, absolutely.
Ah.
While the passengers remained blissfully unaware, just waiting for their delayed landing, for approximately 2 hours, Flight 305 circled Puget Sound, a lone aircraft in a sky cleared of all other traffic.
With this silent, methodical criminal in complete unnerving control.
Total control.
What's truly remarkable about Cooper during this tense wait is his sheer composure, chain-smoking Raleigh cigarettes, ordering another bourbon. Was this just nerves of steel or something else?
I think it was absolutely a tactical tool. By maintaining that calm, almost business-like demeanor, he diffused potential panic among the crew and ensured their full cooperation.
It's a form of psychological control.
Definitely, as crucial as the bomb itself. He avoided any overt aggression, which often provokes resistance. He was polite, almost amiable, even apparently offering to pay for his drinks.
It created this controlled, almost collaborative environment, ironically, where his demands could be met efficiently. That psychological mastery was key.
Undeniably key to his initial success.
Now, a critical observation emerges from this period regarding the parachutes. He demanded 4, 2 primary and 2 reserve. Why that specific number? What's the thinking there?
That was a shrewd move, really indicative of a calculating mind. Investigators quickly realized that by requesting multiple parachutes, Cooper was creating a powerful deterrent.
How so?
He was implying that he might force a crew member to jump with him, or maybe that he had an accomplice on the plane. This ambiguity served as a powerful shield against any temptation by the FBI or airline security to provide him with sabotaged or non-functional equipment.
Right, because if they gave him duds, they might kill an innocent person too.
Precisely. It demonstrated a mind that was not just criminal, but keenly strategic, thinking several steps ahead. He wasn't just planning the hijacking, he was planning his escape and anticipating countermeasures.
And his knowledge wasn't just tactical. He displayed an unnerving familiarity with the local geography too, didn't he?
He did. As the plane circled, he looked out the window and calmly commented to flight attendant Tina Mucklow, "Looks like Tacoma down there," correctly identifying the city below, shrouded in the gathering dusk. And when he was informed that the parachutes were being sourced from McChord Air Force Base, he casually noted that McChord was only a 20-minute drive from the airport.
Which suggests what? Local knowledge? Maybe prior reconnaissance? Military experience even?
Could be any of those. Tina Mucklow, who spent the most time with him, later described him as not nervous, rather nice, and not cruel or nasty.
It just reinforces that image of a man executing a well-rehearsed plan, not some desperate, impulsive act.
He seemed like a professional, albeit one with a very illicit agenda.
So finally, at 5:45 p.m., as darkness fell, Flight 305 landed at SeaTac.
Yep. As per Cooper's precise instructions, it taxied to a remote, unlit section of the tarmac away from the main terminals, surrounded by hidden law enforcement sharpshooters.
He ordered the window shades closed, right? To prevent anyone seeing in.
Ever cautious. Then the ransom money, 10,000 unmarked $20 bills, weighing about 21 pounds, delivered in a canvas military-style knapsack, and the 4 parachutes were brought aboard by an FBI agent.
A tense, silent exchange.
Flawlessly executed from Cooper's perspective.
And once he had verified the delivery, Cooper, surprisingly perhaps, upheld his end of the bargain.
He did. He allowed all 36 passengers, along with flight attendants Florence Schaffner and Alice Hancock, to disembark.
Keeping only a skeleton crew. Captain Scott, First Officer Ratasak, Flight Engineer Anderson, and Tina Mucklow.
This is a critical moment. He had the money, he had the chutes, but his plan was far from over.
Right, the next phase.
After the plane was refueled, Cooper issued his final, highly specific set of instructions. At approximately 7:40 p.m., Flight 305 took off again, ostensibly bound for Mexico City with a planned refueling stop in Reno, Nevada.
But his flight parameters were incredibly precise and absolutely crucial for a successful parachute jump from a commercial jetliner.
Extremely crucial. The plane was to fly at a low altitude, under 10,000 feet.
Where the air was thicker, temperatures slightly more survivable.
Exactly. With the landing gear down to create drag, and the wing flaps extended to 15 degrees, this configuration would significantly reduce the aircraft's speed, keeping it around 200 knots, roughly 230 mph.
Making a jump potentially survivable, a far cry from the jet's usual cruising speed.
This wasn't a random leap, it was a calculated maneuver.
Soon after takeoff, he ordered the entire remaining crew into the cockpit. and told them to stay there, door closed.
Tina Mucklow was the last person to see Dan Cooper alive, or at least the last to see him on the plane. As she moved to the cockpit, her eyes fixed on him.
What did she see?
She watched him tying the bag of money securely around his waist, preparing for his exit. It must have been an absolutely chilling moment.
The realization dawning that this man was truly going to jump?
With Cooper alone in the main cabin, the crew could only monitor the aircraft's instruments. At 8:00 p.m., an indicator light illuminated in the cockpit.
Signaling what?
That the aft air stair, that unique feature of the Boeing 727 that can be lowered in flight, had been deployed.
Okay, so the back stairs are down.
Then at approximately 8:14 p.m., as the aircraft flew through a violent storm over the rugged wilderness of southwestern Washington, the pilots felt a sudden, distinct upward movement of the tail section, accompanied by a momentary fluctuation in cabin pressure.
That was it. That was the moment.
That's the precise moment the FBI has long believed Dan Cooper, weighted down with $200,000, stepped off those stairs and into the freezing, rain-swept night.
Imagine the scene. Pitch black, a severe storm, and a lone figure plummeting into the abyss. And fighter jets were following.
They were. 2 F-106 fighter jets and a T-33 trainer aircraft were tailing Flight 305 from a distance, but due to the pitch-black conditions and thick cloud cover, none of the military pilots saw a parachute deploy or a figure exit the aircraft.
He just vanished, swallowed by the storm.
Completely. At 10:15 p.m., the Boeing 727 landed safely at Reno Tahoe Airport. Authorities swarmed the plane, FBI, local police, airport security.
But the cabin was empty.
Empty. Dan Cooper was gone. He had taken the ransom money and 2 of the 4 parachutes. All that remained of the ghost from seat 18E were a few meager clues. His black JCPenney clip-on tie and its mother-of-pearl tie clip, and 8 Raleigh cigarette butts he had chain-smoked.
And just like that, the legend had begun. Born from an empty cabin and a daring escape.
The vanishing and manhunt in the storm.
The disappearance of Dan Cooper immediately triggered one of the most extensive, expensive, and ultimately, let's face it, frustrating investigations in FBI history.
Oh, absolutely. It was codenamed Or Jack for Northwest Hijacking, and this 45-year manhunt involved thousands of leads, hundreds of suspects, even deploying what was then cutting-edge tech.
Yet it concluded without ever identifying the perpetrator or definitively determining his fate.
From the outset, the FBI was heavily involved, mobilizing vast resources. Agents immediately scoured the aircraft for any forensic evidence, meticulously recovering 66 latent fingerprints from various surfaces.
Cocktail glasses, the tray table?
Right. But none of these prints ever matched any suspect in the FBI's vast databases, and many were likely just from other passengers or crew, not Cooper's.
So the fingerprints were a dead end?
Pretty much. The most significant items recovered were the hijacker's black clip-on tie, his mother-of-pearl tie clip, and those 8 Raleigh cigarette butts.
Seemingly innocuous personal effects.
Which became crucial pieces of a very small, yet profound, puzzle tiny threads in a vast web of uncertainty.
Yeah, here's a detail that, while seemingly minor, profoundly shaped the public's perception of the case from the very beginning. The name.
Ah, yes. The hijacker had purchased his ticket under the alias Dan Cooper. But in the frantic rush to report the breaking story, a journalist for the Oregon Journal confused this name with that of a local man named D.B. Cooper, who was briefly questioned by Portland police and quickly cleared.
Just a mistake by a reporter under deadline pressure.
Seems like it. The wire services, eager for a succinct identifier, picked up the error, and just like that, the mysterious skyjacker was immortalized in the public consciousness, not as Dan Cooper, but as D.B. Cooper.
And stepping back, the broader implication of this simple media error is actually pretty significant, isn't it?
Incredibly significant.
Okay.
It reveals that the legend of the case was, from its very inception, built on a foundation of myth-making and factual inaccuracy.
The moment the media misnamed him D.B. Cooper, they inadvertently birthed this persona far more enduring than Dan.
Exactly. It wasn't just a mistake. It solidified a public icon, blurring the lines between fact and legend from day one and making the unsolved nature of the case part of its appeal. It created this chasm between the slow, ambiguous reality of the investigation and the immediate, simplified narrative the public embraced.
Forever shaping the way we talk about D.B. Cooper.
Right.
So the immediate and most daunting challenge for the FBI was locating Cooper's landing site, based on that 8.13 p.m. pressure bump we talked about.
The FBI's initial calculations place his jump zone in a rugged, heavily forested area of southwestern Washington near the town of Ariel and Lake Merwin.
And the search that followed was huge, right?
Massive. a monumental effort against daunting odds. For 18 brutal days, more than 300 soldiers from nearby Fort Lewis, alongside FBI agents and local law enforcement, combed that dense wilderness on foot and by helicopter.
But the conditions were terrible.
Absolutely brutal. The search began in the middle of a fierce November storm. Heavy rain, low visibility, freezing temperatures that dropped well below zero at night.
And the terrain itself.
A formidable obstacle. Steep hills, deep ravines plunging hundreds of feet, towering fir trees with dense undergrowth that could easily conceal a body or a parachute, even from the air.
They even searched the lakes.
They did. Search parties and patrol boats scoured Lake Merwin and nearby Yale Lake, even employing a private salvage company's small submarine to search the lake's depths, all to no avail.
Hoover even got the Blackbird involved.
He did. In a testament to the investigation's priority, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover authorized the use of a sophisticated SR-71 Blackbird spy plane to retrace the flight path and take high-res photos.
What?
Persistent cloud cover, almost as if conspiring with Cooper, rendered that mission a frustrating failure.
So, years later, investigators started thinking maybe they searched the wrong place entirely.
Exactly. A crucial reevaluation of the flight data, aided by testimony from a Continental Airlines pilot who was flying just 4 minutes behind Flight 305, revealed that the FBI's original wind speed and direction calculations were likely incorrect.
So where did the new analysis point?
It suggested the plane was farther east than initially believed at the time of the jump. The probable drop zone was recalculated to be over the Washougal River watershed, several miles southeast of the original search area.
Closer to civilization, maybe.
Potentially. But this revised location presented its own insurmountable challenge.
Mount St. Helens.
Bingo. On May 18th, 1980, less than a decade after the hijacking, the catastrophic eruption of Mount St. Helens blanketed the entire region, including the Washougal Valley, in a thick layer of volcanic ash and debris, feet deep in places.
Effectively burying any evidence.
That's what the FBI ultimately concluded, quite pragmatically, that this immense natural event had most likely buried or irrevocably destroyed any remaining physical evidence. His parachute, the money bag, his remains. An act of nature sealing the cold case.
Adding a layer of geological finality to the human mystery.
Well put.
So as the years turned into decades, the Norajak investigation just became this vast repository of dead ends.
By the 5-year anniversary in 1976, the FBI had processed more than 800 suspects, methodically eliminating all but a few dozen who couldn't be definitively cleared.
And that discovery of some ransom money in 1980, we'll get into that next, but briefly reignited things.
It did, but ultimately it just provided more questions than answers, adding another perplexing layer to the enigma.
Finally, on July 8, 2016, after 45 years, the FBI's Seattle field office officially announced it was suspending the Norajak case.
Yeah, this wasn't an admission of defeat, really, but a pragmatic reallocation of finite resources. The Bureau explained that the constant need to investigate new tips, many speculative, contradictory based on flimsy evidence, was diverting manpower from more urgent priorities.
Like national security, violent crime.
Exactly. It was a recognition that without a significant new lead, the active pursuit had become unproductive.
It was a strategic pivot, almost passing the investigative baton.
In a way, yes. By stating that it would only consider reopening the case if specific physical evidence emerged, namely the parachutes or the bulk of the ransom money, the agency effectively filtered out the noise of speculation.
Setting a high evidence-based bar.
Right. They implicitly acknowledged that any future breakthrough would have to be rooted in tangible proof, not in re-examining old theories or chasing new anecdotes. In doing so, the FBI unofficially passed the baton to the burgeoning community of citizen sleuth.
But kept the case files.
Oh, yes. The 66 volumes of the case file were meticulously preserved for historical purposes, closing a chapter on one of the Bureau's most iconic failures, but leaving the legend of D.B. Cooper more potent than ever.
The tangible traces evidence in a cold case.
In any criminal investigation, physical evidence is key. It provides that silent, objective testimony that can outlast memory and defy speculation.
And in the D.B. Cooper case, the scarcity of that evidence has been both a central challenge and a source of enduring fascination.
Absolutely. The few items left on the plane and that single perplexing discovery on the ground have been subjected to decades of analysis, with modern forensic science extracting new meaning from clues once thought exhausted.
Constantly challenging previous assumptions. Let's talk about the ransom money, perhaps the most tantalizing and frustrating piece of the puzzle.
For nearly 9 years after the hijacking, the $200,000 ransom seemed to have vanished as completely as Cooper himself. despite the FBI distributing all 10,000 serial numbers worldwide.
Which must have been a huge job back then.
Enormous. To banks, casinos, law enforcement. Yet not a single bill surfaced in circulation.
Until February 10th, 1980.
Right. A major electrifying break. An 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram, vacationing with his family, was just smoothing sand for a campfire on a beach called Bar along the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington.
And he just found it, buried in the sand.
Buried just beneath the surface. 3 decaying bundles of $20 bills, still held together by brittle rubber bands, roughly $5,800.
Incredible. And the FBI confirmed it was the ransom money.
Quickly, technicians confirmed the serial numbers were a perfect match. It was the first, and still the only, piece of physical evidence from the crime ever found outside the aircraft.
So what should have been a breakthrough clue pointing to Cooper's fate instead became one of the case's most confounding puzzles.
Exactly. The location miles downstream from the presumed drop zone and its condition raised far more questions than it answered. Immediately hinted at a more complex story.
What was the simple theory at first? That the money bag tore open during the jump?
Yeah, maybe ripped by the wind, and the bundles just floated downriver to Bar. Seems plausible on the surface.
But science dismantled that theory.
Pretty systematically. First, the geological evidence. A meticulous study by Portland State University geologist Leonard Palmer revealed that the specific sand layer where the money was found had actually been deposited by a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers dredging operation in 1974.
Okay, so the money couldn't have washed ashore and been buried there before 1974.
Correct. Nearly 3 years after the hijacking. That's a huge problem for the simple wash-up theory.
And then there's the diatom analysis. What are diatoms again?
Microscopic single-celled algae. Each species has a unique silica shell, and they thrive in specific water conditions and seasons.
So you can tell when the money hit the water?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
By identifying the particular species of diatoms embedded in the bills, scientists found only species that bloom specifically in the springtime.
Meaning the money entered the water months after the November 1971 jump.
Correct. Together, these findings make a simple, immediate deposition highly improbable. They point to a far more complex chain of events.
Like what? Cooper survived and cashed the money? Or someone else found it?
Possibilities. Maybe Cooper survived, hid the money, and a portion washed into the river years later. Or perhaps an accomplice or even a third party who found Cooper's body and the loot deposited a small portion there for some unknown reason.
So the Bar money isn't a signpost to his death?
Not necessarily. It's more like a cryptic puzzle piece that deepens the central mystery, suggesting a continuing narrative beyond the jump.
Okay, let's move on to the parachutes. Cooper demanded 4, but jumped with only 2, leaving a main and a reserve behind.
And he actually quite cannily used cord cut from one of the abandoned parachutes to securely tie the money bag shut. Practical, resourceful.
Shows quick thinking. But the paradox comes with the parachutes he did take.
Yes, a critical observation. The primary parachute he chose was an older, military-style NB-8 rig with an unsteerable round canopy. Even in 1971, this was considered outdated by most sports skydivers.
Meaning he had virtually no control over where he landed. Terrifying at night in a storm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But even more critically, the reserve parachute he selected was a non-functional training unit, intentionally sewn shut for classroom demonstration purposes.
It was designed not to open. A dummy chute.
A literal fatal flaw for a backup.
This choice has fueled endless debate. No experienced parachutist, especially for a high-risk night jump, would ever make such a fatal error, failing to inspect the reserve.
It's perhaps the strongest piece of evidence suggesting he was an amateur, a conclusion long held by the FBI and many skydiving experts.
So it's truly baffling, but couldn't that mistake prove he was an amateur rather than just lopsided expertise?
It's a valid point, and that's what makes the case so compelling. This apparent technical incompetence is juxtaposed directly with the strategic cunning he showed, demanding multiple shoots to thwart sabotage.
A clever trick designed to guarantee he got functional gear.
Right. So this contradiction, smart enough to outwit the FBI on logistics, but seemingly ignorant of life-saving equipment, is defining.
Which leads to the lopsided expertise idea.
Exactly. Looking at the bigger picture, it strongly suggests that he was perhaps an aviation insider with deep niche knowledge of the 727. Maybe how to operate that air stair.
But with only a dangerously superficial theoretical understanding of practical parachuting?
Precisely. He knew how to jump from a plane, but perhaps not how to land safely under those extreme conditions.
Now, of all the evidence left behind, that simple black clip-on tie found on seat 18E, it's yielded the most extraordinary clues through modern science.
It really has. A Towncraft brand sold by J.C. Penney, cheap, common. But here's the thing. Because ties are rarely washed, they act like cumulative records, trapping microscopic particles over months, years, a silent biography.
So in the 2000s, scientists used a powerful scanning electron microscope.
Right, a team led by paleontologist Tom Kay, granted FBI access. They discovered this microscopic world of over 100,000 particles telling a story about the wearer.
Finding trace amounts of rare and unusual elements, creating a commercial DNA.
That's a great way to put it. This analysis transformed a mundane object into a potential roadmap to the hijacker's life.
The logical steps were fascinating. First, identify rarity, isolating particles uncommon in 1971.
Most notably pure, unalloyed titanium, alloys of titanium and antimony, and titanium smeared with stainless steel, specific industrial residues.
Next, link these to industry.
Pure titanium wasn't typical in aircraft manufacturing then, but common in the chemical industry for corrosion resistance. The specific titanium antimony alloys were traced through patents to specialized metal fabrication facilities like Remcrew and Crucible Steel.
Which were major Boeing contractors, a very specific supply chain.
Exactly. Other rare earth elements found, like cerium and strontium sulfide, were used in making cathode ray tubes for electronics. They even found lycopodium spores.
Used as an anti-sticking agent for pills, suggesting he took medication at work.
Possibly. This wasn't just a snapshot. It was a complex profile emerging from the microscopic.
Allowing them to develop a profile, not a common laborer.
Strongly suggested he worked in a high-tech industrial environment, likely an engineer, manager, or skilled technician who wore a tie to work in a plant or lab. A precise technical mind.
And this specific profile led directly to new persons of interest.
Most notably, Vince Peterson, a titanium research engineer who worked for Crucible Steel in Pittsburgh, a company that supplied Boeing and held patents for the very alloys found on the tie.
Crucible employees would travel to Seattle, know aerospace materials, wear ties.
Exactly. The theory even posits the economic downturn at Boeing in '71, affecting suppliers, could have provided a motive.
So the tie, once a forgotten piece of clothing, becomes a microscopic biography, potentially pointing to who he was.
A gallery of phantoms profiling the suspects.
Over 5 decades, the Unor-Jack investigation and all the amateur inquiries have produced this veritable rogues gallery of suspects. More than 800 considered in the first 5 years alone.
Incredible number. While most were quickly dismissed, a handful of names have risen to prominence, each supported by a compelling, if incomplete, body of evidence.
And these primary suspects really represent different investigative eras, don't they? From classic detective work to 21st century forensics.
Absolutely. Examining them reveals not just potential culprits, but a fascinating history of the hunt for D.B. Cooper itself.
Let's start with Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. He's remained a persistent favorite for many, despite being officially ruled out by the FBI.
The evidence for him is built on an almost impossibly similar crime. On April 7, 1972, less than 5 months after Cooper McCoy, using an alias, boarded a United 727.
Claimed a bomb?
Demanded $500,000 ransom.
And parachuted from the aft stairs after receiving it? The M.O. was a near-perfect echo.
Same plane, same methods, same escape. McCoy, a decorated Vietnam vet, demolitions expert, avid skydiver. He was caught days later.
And recently, his own children have publicly stated they believe their father was Cooper, claiming her mother was complicit, and a key parachute was even found.
That's the recent claim, yes.
Yeah.
So when you lay out the evidence for McCoy, it sounds almost too perfect.
What's the biggest hurdle, then? Why did the FBI rule him out?
2 primary reasons, insurmountable for them. Firstly, he did not physically match the detailed descriptions from flight attendants Schaffner and Mucklawey's build. Secondly, he had what the FBI considered a rock-solid alibi, home in Utah for Thanksgiving dinner on the day of the Cooper hijacking.
Critics also point to differences in accent, ears.
Right. So it raises that important question. Is it more probable that 2 different men independently executed this highly specific, unique crime within 5 months? Or was the FBI's initial evidence, particularly eyewitness memory under stress, flawed?
A classic investigative conundrum, hard facts versus striking similarities.
Precisely.
Okay, next up, Robert Rackstraw, a self-styled outlaw if there ever was one.
Definitely a colorful character. Decorated Army helicopter pilot, paratrooper in Vietnam, but his career was marred by disciplinary issues. Discharged angry and disillusioned just 5 months before the hijacking.
And his later life, A string of crimes.
Aircraft theft, check fraud, even infamously faking his own death in a plane crash to avoid legal trouble.
So a private investigation really focused on him.
Yes, led by author Thomas Colbert and a team of retired law enforcement. They built a formidable circumstantial case. Claimed a 9-point match between Rackstraw's 1970 Army ID photo and the FBI's main composite sketch.
He had the skills, potential motive of resentment, history of daring behavior.
And Colbert's team claimed to have deciphered complex codes and letters allegedly sent by Cooper to newspapers, pointing directly to Rackstraw's secret military intelligence units. Added a layer of covert mystery.
But the FBI investigated him in the late 70s and eliminated him in 79. Lack of direct evidence.
Correct. And Rackstraw himself consistently denied being Cooper until his death in 2019, though often with a smirk.
What's fascinating there is how his own behavior kind of contaminated the evidence pool, right? Made it hard to separate fact from self-mythologizing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
His denials were often coy, playful, seemingly designed to fuel speculation. He'd say things like, "I could have been," admitted, telling people he was the hijacker.
So was he dropping clever hints or just a narcissist basking in the infamy?
That's the question. His case really illustrates the difficulty of separating fact from performance, with a suspect who enjoys playing the part.
Then there's Sheridan Peterson, a suspect from the early days, though not formally interviewed for decades, the potential insider.
His background aligned remarkably well. Former Boeing employee who worked in the department that wrote the technical flight manual for the 727.
Giving him intimate knowledge of the aft staircase and its capabilities.
Unparalleled knowledge, potentially. Plus, he is an accomplished skydiver, former smoke jumper, worked at the Issaquah Skydive Center, the same place that provided Cooper's parachutes.
Wow, and he resembled the sketches. Admitted the FBI had reason to suspect him.
Yes. And there's even a photo from a Boeing newsletter showing him in a suit and tie for his skydiving demo, eerily similar to Cooper's attire.
But there were discrepancies.
Significant ones. Witnesses described Cooper having brown eyes. Peterson's were distinctly blue. Cooper was a chain smoker. Peterson reportedly wasn't. And his alibi.
Living in a mud hut in Nepal at the time. Difficult to confirm or disprove.
Exactly. Added another layer of ambiguity.
Finally, Vince Peterson, a suspect born purely of 21st century science.
His name emerged solely from that meticulous forensic analysis of the tie. The case is entirely built on those microscopic particles.
Investigator Eric Eulis, following Tom Kay's work, traced specific titanium stainless steel alloy particles to patents held by Crucible Steel in Pittsburgh.
And Vince Peterson was a titanium research engineer at that very company during the relevant time. As a major supplier to Boeing, Crucible employees like Peterson traveled to Seattle, knew advanced materials, wore ties.
The theory even posits the Boeing downturn in 71 as a possible motive.
Right, affecting suppliers, causing layoffs.
But the major point against him is it's entirely circumstantial, a long chain of scientific inference.
Yes. No other known evidence, witness, testimony, confession matching MO directly links him. And sadly, he passed away in 2002, long before being identified as a person of interest. Further investigation is nearly impossible.
So these four suspects really map the evolution of criminal investigation itself.
From traditional detective work to the microscopic insights of modern forensics, it's quite a journey.
The impossible jump. An analysis of survival.
Okay, the central, most fiercely debated question. Did D.B. Cooper survive his audacious leap into that stormy night?
It dictates the entire narrative, doesn't it? Was he a brilliant criminal who pulled off the perfect crime, a true ghost? Or a reckless amateur whose grand heist ended in a fatal plunge?
Both sides have compelling yet contradictory evidence.
The prevailing view, held by the FBI for most of the investigation and supported by numerous experts, is that his chances of survival were vanishingly slim.
Based on what, mainly?
A clinical assessment of the overwhelming physical challenges. He jumped around 8:13 p.m., long after sunset, late November, directly into a severe storm, heavy rain, thick cloud cover obscuring the ground, near total darkness, spatial orientation impossible.
And the jump parameters themselves were incredibly dangerous.
Even for an experienced skydiver. 10,000 feet altitude, temps well below freezing, maybe 15-20 degrees Fahrenheit, extreme wind shear, turbulence, 200-mile-per-hour airspeed subjecting his body to immense forces.
Plus, his equipment was just dangerously inadequate.
Business suit, loafers, trench coat, zero protection from cold, rain, impact. His parachute? Primitive, unsteerable military surplus rig. No control over descent.
And most critically, failing to notice his reserve chute was a sewn-shut, non-functional training model.
Seen by experts as a fatal error no experienced jumper would make, a literally non-deployable backup.
And the presumed landing zone. Rugged, mountainous, forested.
The initial zones, yes. Cascade foothills. A nighttime landing there, even for an expert, is treacherous. High risk of tree entanglement, falling into ravines, landing in freezing water like Lake Merwin.
FBI agent Larry Carr summarized it grimly back in 2007.
Saying, no experienced parachutist would have jumped, it was simply too risky.
And the fact that almost none of the money was ever found or spent. That's often cited as the ultimate proof of his demise.
If he'd survived and enjoyed his gains, surely more serial-numbered bills would have surfaced over 50 years.
Yet despite all that, the theory that Cooper survived persists. Fueled by what? The lack of a body.
That's a huge part of it, and robust counterarguments from dedicated citizen sleuths. A significant challenge comes from modern reevaluations of the flight path,
suggesting he jumped somewhere else.
Some researchers, using more precise data and GPS modeling, argue the plane was much farther east. Cooper likely jumped over flatter, more accessible terrain, maybe farmland or suburbs near Vancouver, Washington, and Battleground.
Which would dramatically increase survival chances.
Potentially, yes. As one researcher put it, it's a complete myth that it was a wilderness. The landscape might have been less unforgiving.
And then there's the most powerful argument for survival. An argument from absence.
Exactly. For over 50 years, despite searches, hunters, hikers, loggers, no definitive trace of Cooper ever found. No body, skeletal remains, parachute, briefcase, money bag, beyond that small tennis bar find.
Proponents argue, if he died, something should have surfaced by now. The complete lack suggests successful evasion, or at least a very unconventional end.
Also, Cooper's actions aboard the plane, methodical, intelligent, in control. Specific knowledge of the 727, precise flight parameters. Does that sound like someone leaving survival entirely to chance?
It fuels theories of a prearranged escape plan, maybe an accomplice on the ground.
Ready to spirit him away and destroy evidence. It's plausible given his planning.
So what does this all mean? The debate hinges on this fundamental contradiction.
The jump itself, weather, gear, terrain, paints a picture of a reckless amateur who almost certainly perished.
But the hijacking itself, calm demeanor, shrewd manipulation, specific aircraft knowledge, suggests a savvy professional who left nothing to chance. How can both be true?
How do we reconcile these opposing truths?
The most logical synthesis is that lopsided expertise idea again.
It attempts to reconcile it. He may have been a true expert in a narrow-field aviation mechanic, cargo specialist, aerospace engineer familiar with the 727, especially the aft stairs,
accounting for his confidence and precision during the hijacking.
But this specialized knowledge didn't extend to practical high-risk parachuting. He might have had theoretical knowledge, enough to convince himself, but was a novice facing a real-world jump in extreme conditions.
This model explains both his stunning ability to pull off the crime
and his likely tragic failure to survive the fatally flawed escape. It fits the contradictory evidence better than most other theories.
The ripple effect legacy of an unsolved crime.
The D.B. Cooper case is more than just an unsolved mystery. It's a profound cultural touchstone. It left a permanent mark on air travel realities and American folklore.
Those 5 hours on Flight 305 sent seismic ripples through the aviation industry. Changes forced then are still very much in effect today.
And simultaneously, his vanishing act captured the public imagination, transforming a quiet criminal into this enduring anti-establishment icon.
The hijacking happened when air piracy was alarmingly common, nearly 160 incidents in the U.S. between 61 and 73. Most were political, diverted to Cuba.
Airlines and government had resisted tough security, fearing cost and inconvenience.
Cooper's crime domestic, pure extortion, successful escape was a dramatic escalation. Along with other violent hijackings, it made the status quo untenable, showed current security was insufficient.
It prompted immediate, specific changes. The most direct, tangible legacy is the Cooper vane.
Or Cooper switch. Simple, ingenious, spring-loaded mechanical wedge on the exterior of the 727 aft air stair door.
How does it work?
In flight, airflow presses the vane, engaging a bolt that physically prevents the staircase from being lowered. Can't be overridden from inside. It sealed the very escape route Cooper exploited,
ensuring no one could replicate his method.
Exactly. And while universal passenger screening was already being discussed, Cooper's success was a major catalyst overcoming airline resistance.
They'd argued searches would inconvenience passengers, slow things down.
But in 1973, directly responding to the threat Cooper demonstrated, the FAA mandated screening of all passengers and carry-on luggage.
leading directly to universal metal detectors, X-ray machines, the foundation of modern aviation security.
A system only intensified after 9/11. This era's hijackings also prompted landmark court cases affirming the government's right to search, underpinning all subsequent security.
And culturally. In a society often disillusioned with authority, Cooper's story resonated deeply.
Perceived as this daring figure, challenging a corporation and the government, and seemingly winning. Because he didn't physically harm anyone, it was romanticized as victimless daring.
A modern-day Jesse James vanishing into the mist.
Transformed him from felon into anti-establishment folk hero.
What's fascinating is how that status cemented his place in pop culture.
Dozens of books, nonfiction investigations, fictional thrillers, films like The Pursuit of D.B. Cooper Without a Paddle, TV shows from Prison Break to Twin Peaks, and even Marvel's Loki.
Songs by Kid Rock, MF Doom, his name pops up everywhere.
His story permeated our collective consciousness, a testament to its enduring power.
And this fascination isn't just passive, it spawned an active subculture of cooperates.
Amateur sleuths, enthusiasts in online forums, podcasts like the Cooper Vortex, even annual gatherings like CooperCon in Vancouver, Washington.
Sharing research, debating theories, an unsolved crime creating a community.
It's quite something. The persistence of the legend for over half a century speaks to more than just an unsolved case. It taps into deep psychological needs.
Its tower lies in the void at its center.
Exactly. No confirmed identity, motive, or fate. Cooper is a blank slate. He can be whatever you want him to be. Disgruntled vet, brilliant engineer, desperate family man, cunning sociopath.
People project their own fantasies of rebellion, escape, defiance onto him.
That ambiguity is the engine of the mystery, allows it to adapt and stay relevant.
Which raises that important question. In an age of information saturation where everything seems documented, every question answerable online, why does a truly unsolvable puzzle hold such powerful allure?
The mystery itself is the point. An FBI agent even noted they got messages asking them not to solve it for fear of spoiling the legend. The case represents a lurking doubt, that legal concept of a gut feeling something's wrong, even without strict evidence. Cooper is a grand collective lurking doubt, a story where the system failed to give an answer, leaving a permanent, fascinating question mark.
That uncertainty is the source of its power, its immortality.
He truly is a modern ghost story, jumping among us. Outro.
So more than 50 years after a man calling himself Dan Cooper stepped out of a Boeing 727 and into criminal history, the case remains this rich tapestry woven from a few hard facts and countless threads of speculation.
The knowns are few but concrete. A hijacking executed with cool precision. $200,000 ransom paid, a man parachuted into a stormy night over Washington, and $5,800 found 9 years later under perplexing circumstances, raising more questions.
Beyond these facts lies that vast territory of unknowns. His true identity, motive, ultimate fate, still subjects of intense, passionate debate.
The evidence itself is contradictory. A man simultaneously meticulous and precise, yet perhaps reckless and amateurish about survival.
Knowledgeable enough to exploit the 727's design, apparently ignorant enough to jump with a dummy chute, cunning enough to outwit the FBI initially.
But perhaps not skilled enough to survive the landing.
Today, the official On-Our Jack investigation is dormant, 66 volumes preserved at FBI HQ.
The Bureau's position is pragmatic. Without new, definitive physical evidence, the missing chute, the bulk of the money, the case stays inactive. The era of chasing speculative leads is officially over for them.
Yet the investigation is far from dead. It's just shifted.
From government halls to digital forums, collaborative projects of dedicated citizen sleuths worldwide, armed with tools unimaginable in 71 electron microscopy, DNA analysis, GPS modeling, collective intelligence.
This new generation keeps probing, refusing to let it fade.
The tie analysis pointing towards industries, even engineers, shows new insights can still come from old evidence. The debate over suspects like McCoy, bolstered by recent family testimony, shows old theories can find new life.
The probability of it ever being definitively solved remains low, but not zero.
A chance discovery of the parachute? A DNA match from the tie? Unearthing the rest of the money? It could happen. Provide that final chapter.
But consider this, as you walk away from this deep dive. In a world where information seems limitless, answers a search query away, what does the D.B. Cooper case truly tell us about our deep-seated need for enigma, our fascination with those who defy the system?
And perhaps our secret desire for some stories to simply remain unsolved. He jumped from a plane and landed squarely in the national imagination, a permanent question mark in the sky. What will his mysterious legacy mean to you?